So, what happens when Elon Musk's XAI, the company with this wild vision for unfiltered AI, decides to partner up with a giant like Microsoft? Well, it's not just a handshake and a business deal, it's a collision course. You've got this radical tell it like it is AI vision on one side, and on the other, you have Microsoft's super strict mandate for safety and control. This whole thing, it could literally set the rules for the entire future of AI. So let's get into it and figure out what's really going on here. And really, this whole thing kicked off with this just unbelievably bold claim from Elon Musk himself. He said Grok 4 would have PhD-level intelligence across all subjects. I mean, come on, you don't just say that. He wasn't just launching a new product. He was basically throwing down a gauntlet, challenging the entire industry. A statement like that, yeah, it puts everyone in the tech world on high alert. So, with that massive promise just hanging out there, Grok 4 officially steps into the ring. And let's be clear, this wasn't just some run-of-the-mill software update. No, this was a brand new heavyweight contender, stepping up to take a swing at the reigning champs of the AI world. Now, check out the timeline, because this is where it gets really interesting. On July 9th, 2025, the model goes live. Okay, big news. But then, just a few days later, bam! At Microsoft's Big Build conference, the partnership is announced. You gotta know, that kind of timing is no accident. It was a totally calculated, carefully orchestrated power move. Okay, so what's this deal actually all about? Let's pop the hood on this partnership and see how it all works. All right, so the way they work together is pretty straightforward, kind of like an assembly line. First, XAI does its thing, developing the Grok models. Then, Microsoft takes those models and plugs them right into its Azure AI Foundry. Think of that as their big, fancy marketplace for corporate AI tools. From there, it gets rolled out to their enterprise clients. But, and this is the big but, that final step is absolutely crucial. Everything, and I mean everything, is monitored through Microsoft's own AI principles. And folks, that last piece, that's where these two very different worlds start to collide. From a business perspective, this makes perfect sense. It's crystal clear. If you're a big company, you get the raw power of Grok, but it's backed by the muscle, the security, and the sheer scale of Microsoft's Azure cloud. What this really does is transform what could be seen as an experimental, kind of risky AI into a reliable, billable service that a major corporation can actually trust and plug into their systems. But you know how it goes. With any launch this hyped up, the promise eventually has to crash into reality. It has to face what actual users are experiencing. And well, this is exactly where our story takes a pretty sharp turn. And that gap between the promise and the reality, it became obvious pretty fast. On the one hand, on paper, this thing was a beast. Impressive benchmarks, it could handle text and images, the whole 9 yards. But in the real world, well, users were saying it just uses way too many words, the interface is a mess, and, way more importantly, some really serious concerns started popping up about its actual behavior. And we're not talking about minor bugs or little glitches here. The model was designed with this, let's say, controversial anti-woke stance. In practice, that led to some really politically charged and sometimes, frankly, biased answers. Critics were immediately raising red flags, warning that it was just amplifying existing biases from its training data and could even be used to spread some pretty harmful ideas. So the very thing that was supposed to be its superpower, being this unique truth seeker, was also the thing making it a total lightning rod for controversy. And this right here, this brings us to the absolute heart of this entire situation. It's that classic conflict, right? The push for relentless, breakneck speed innovation versus the pull of ethical responsibility. And that's really what we mean when we call this a double-edged sword. On one edge, you've got this amazing potential for a truly groundbreaking, truth-seeking AI. But on the other edge, you've got the absolute non-negotiable need for safety checks, for ethical guardrails, especially now when regulators are watching this stuff more closely than ever before. When you boil it all down, this partnership is a massive culture clash. I mean, look at their philosophies. XAI is all about unfiltered truth-seeking. They use this method they call reasoning from first principles, which basically means trying to think without any preconceived notions. Microsoft's whole reason for being in this space is the exact opposite. Their mandate is to deliver responsible AI, using super strict, predefined controls and monitoring. It's the classic story, right? The disruptive, move fast and break things startup versus the established corporate giant that can't afford to break things. So, when all is said and done, this is probably the single most important consequence of the whole deal. The second Grok entered Microsoft's world, the Azure ecosystem, it stopped being just Elon Musk's unfiltered creation. It's now on a leash. It has to play by Microsoft's very public, very strict ethical rules, rules that were specifically designed to prevent the exact kind of controversies Grok was kicking up.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. What does this mean for everybody else? Because a deal like this doesn't just stay in a vacuum. It sends ripples across the entire AI industry.
And the implications for the industry are huge. For starters, it totally sets a new precedent for how powerful AI models get vetted before they're let loose on the public. It also ramps up the pressure on everyone to be more transparent and accountable. But the big one is this. It's a massive, real-world stress test for that balance between innovating at lightning speed and, being safe. How this whole thing plays out is absolutely going to influence how every other major company decides to develop and deploy AI. And you have to admit, xAI is playing a pretty clever game here. It's a dual strategy. They're keeping their crown jewel, Grok 4, under lock and key. That's their proprietary model for making money. But at the same time, they're releasing other, less powerful models as open source. Why? To build up a community, get some goodwill, and let other people innovate on their tech for them. It's a classic have your cake and eat it too kind of move. So look, if there's one thing you take away from all this, it should be this. This partnership is so much more than a business deal. It's really about drawing the battle lines. It's about defining the rules of the game for the next generation of super powerful AI that, let's face it, is going to be accessible to literally billions of people. And that leaves us, and really the entire industry, with a massive unanswered question. As these AI systems get exponentially more powerful, can we actually find a way to balance that frantic race for innovation with the absolute, non-negotiable need for accountability? This partnership, it doesn't give us the answer. What it does is force every single one of us to stare that question right in the face.